I've always had a thing with sounds. Not in a musical way, not like perfect pitch or anything impressive, just sensitivity. I notice background hums others ignore, the way certain tones make my skin crawl. Static on radios, wind hitting a screen door, even the sound of someone breathing in a silent room. It started when I was a kid. I'd hear this faint whistling before something bad happened, before my dad's car accident, before the fire in our garage. My mom called it coincidence, but I never really believed in coincidence after that. It had been years since I'd heard the whistling. I'd grown up, moved to a quiet town in Oregon, worked nights at a library. Peaceful. Predictable. That kind of sleepy life where nothing big happens. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, I heard it again. I was shelving books in the back aisle, alone. The place was nearly empty, just one man reading by the windows, the night dark and slapping rain against the glass. I was humming to myself, stacking returns, when I suddenly froze, the whistling. It wasn't coming from the speakers or outside. It was low, thin, in the air around me like it had slipped through the cracks in the world. High-pitched, hollow, wrong. I dropped the book in my hand. I didn't remember doing it. My body just reacted. A flush of cold rolled down my arms, a tightness in my chest. Something was coming. I looked up and scanned the aisle empty. I looked toward the entrance. That's when the lights flickered. The flickering stopped as quickly as it started. Just a second-long stutter. But I knew what it meant. I stepped out from the aisle, eyes darting toward the man by the window. He hadn't moved. He was hunched over a thick volume, still as stone. Too still. Like he was holding his breath. I called out, "You okay?" No answer. I took a few cautious steps closer, the rain tapping faster against the glass behind him. My shoes made the softest squeaks on the linoleum, and everyone made me wince. I felt like I was in a room that wanted to stay quiet, like even the floor was warning me. When I got closer, I saw that the man was holding the book open, but not reading it. His eyes were fixed downward, but glassy. His lips were barely parted. And then, the whistling again. Louder this time, right next to me. I looked around. Nothing. No speakers, no open windows. Then I noticed his eyes shift, not toward me, past me. I turned around and almost screamed. There was a man standing in the hallway between the stacks. I hadn't heard him come in. He wore a green raincoat, soaked through, hood up, head slightly tilted like he was listening to something only he could hear. And in his hand was a crowbar, not raised, just held, like a casual extension of his arm. He didn't move, didn't say a word, just stood, dripping on the floor. The air buzzed with quiet, so quiet that I could hear the individual droplets fall from his sleeve. I stepped backward toward the checkout desk. He took a step forward. No words, just the sound of his boots squishing on the tile. The man by the window still didn't move, as if this was a dream he didn't want to be part of. I whispered, "I heard you." The man in the green coat smiled, a slow, crooked grin that didn't reach his eyes. I backed up toward the counter, keeping my eyes on the man in the raincoat. He followed, slowly, like he had all the time in the world. The whistling grew louder, but now it had layers, a low, metallic undertone beneath the high-pitched hiss. It sounded like something grinding, something ancient waking up. My back hit the checkout desk. I reached blindly behind me, groping for the emergency phone. My fingers found it old, wired, sticky with age. I picked it up. Deadline. No dial tone. Just the same whistling, now in the receiver. As if whatever this was, it wasn't just in the room. It was everywhere. In the wires, in the walls. The man took another step. "Stop," I said. My voice cracked. He tilted his head again, like he was listening through me. Then he whispered softly, "I came because you heard me." I froze. That didn't make sense. He said it like I had invited him. Like the whistling my curse, my early warning, had somehow called him. I looked toward the man at the window again. He was gone. I didn't hear him leave. There was no sound, just absence, like he'd been erased. Not run, not escaped. Removed. The man in the coat walked to the middle of the room and placed the crowbar on the floor, gently. Then he stepped away from it and turned his back to me. I didn't know what to do. My hands shook. My heart pounded in my throat. I didn't understand the rules anymore. Then he spoke once more. "You'll hear it again when it's your turn." And then he walked out the front door. Calm. Silent. The door didn't even slam behind him, just a soft click. I rushed forward, heart thundering. Outside? Nothing. He was gone. Just empty, wet pavement stretching into the fog. After that night, I stopped working at the library. I didn't tell the police much. What could I say? That a man walked in, said nothing, left a weapon on the floor, and vanished? That I heard a sound before it all happened? That someone who had been sitting in the building was just gone? They reviewed the security tapes. There was no man at the window. They showed me the footage, and in it, I'm shelving books alone. No one across the room. Just me. And then me again, at the desk. Panicked and confused, holding a silent phone. No sign of him. Or the man in the coat. But the camera did catch something else. At the exact moment I dropped the book and looked up, the footage glitched. The sound feed cut to static, and for 5 seconds there was a faint, unexplainable whistling. It matched the exact tone I'd always heard. I don't go near libraries anymore. I avoid aisles, old phones, and fluorescent lights. I moved in with my cousin out of state, told everyone I needed a reset. But sometimes, when it rains, and it rains a lot where I live now, I hear it again. Not often, just faint, enough to wake me, or keep me staring at the door. And last Thursday, I woke up to a knock at 2:17 a.m. I didn't answer, but when I opened the door at sunrise, there was something on the porch. A library card, my name on it, no expedition, just 2 words scribbled on the back. "You're next." I've always been a night driver. There's something calming about being the only one on the road, just you. The hum of tires on asphalt and the soft glow of streetlights that stretch into blackness. I worked as a delivery driver back in 2018, driving long rural routes in the Midwest. I liked it. Quiet, solitary, peaceful. But that night, I wasn't alone. It started with a dream. One I'd had 3 nights in a row. I was driving down a foggy 2-lane road, same as always, when my headlights landed on a man standing in the middle of my lane. Not waving, not walking, just standing. His eyes were wide, staring straight at me. Every time, I slammed on the brakes and woke up before hitting him. I chalked it up to stress. Maybe a movie I watched. I even laughed it off with a friend over lunch. But the 3rd night I had the dream, something changed. When I slammed the brakes in the dream, I didn't wake up. The car kept rolling. The man didn't move. He was close enough that I could see his mouth move, like he was speaking, but no sound came out. His lips repeated the same word, switch. Then I woke up, drenched in sweat, my heart hammering, and this time the feeling didn't fade. You know that gut-sick sense of something horribly unfinished? It followed me through breakfast, through the gas station, into my delivery van. And all night, while I drove my route, I kept looking for him. Mile after mile, fog had rolled in, just like the dream. Then, at 2:38 a.m., I saw him. I hit the brakes hard. The van screeched, tires biting into the wet pavement. The seatbelt dug into my chest. The figure in the road didn't flinch. He didn't raise a hand, didn't even blink in the beams. Just stood there, his eyes like glass, face blank. The fog danced around him like smoke. I leaned on the horn. No reaction. I squinted, trying to make out more through the mist. It was him. The man from my dreams, same torn flannel. Same wet jeans stuck to his legs. Same pale face and cracked lips. I opened my window a crack and shouted, "Hey, are you all right?" That's when I heard it. From inside the van. Not outside. Switch. Clear as day. As if someone had whispered it right next to my ear. I spun around, expecting someone in the back seat, maybe a prank, maybe a hitchhiker. I didn't notice, but the van was empty. My flashlight rolled slowly across the floor behind me from the force of the sudden stop. The man still stood there, Then, slowly, he lifted one hand and pointed to the left lane, the wrong side of the road. Just pointed, then disappeared. I blinked. I leaned forward, my eyes wide. The spot where he stood was empty. No footprints, no silhouette, just the low swirl of fog gliding across the asphalt. I should have turned around. I should have gone home. But I didn't. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds. Then something inside me, that same feeling from the dream, told me not to take the right lane. Told me to switch. So I did. I shifted into gear and carefully eased into the left lane, heart thudding. I drove slowly. Every part of me was tense, expecting headlights to appear and blind me. But the road was still dead quiet. I drove for maybe a quarter mile in the left lane, nothing in sight. Then I saw it. A massive oak tree had fallen across the right lane, just around a bend. The kind of bend you don't see until you're already turning into it. The branches were thick, jagged, slick with rain, some sharpened like spears. I would have hit it going 50, probably wouldn't have walked away. But the left lane? Clear. As I passed, I looked into the woods beside the tree and saw him again standing just beyond the brush, watching me pass. My pulse slammed in my throat as I passed the fallen tree. The sight of him just standing there in the woods nearly made me swerve, but I kept driving, eyes forward, hands tight on the wheel. I made it another mile before I had to pull over. I threw the van into park on a gravel shoulder, killed the engine, and just sat there, breathing, trying to convince myself it was some stress-induced hallucination, sleep deprivation. Something. Anything but what I was now almost certain of. He had warned me. I leaned forward, resting my head against the steering wheel. But then I heard it again. Switch. Not in my ears this time, it was in the radio. I hadn't turned it on. The dashboard screen flickered to life, volume at 0, and then it climbed on its own slowly till a faint static came through. And underneath the static, the sound of tires on gravel. I looked in the side mirror. A set of headlights had turned onto the road behind me. Relief washed over me at first. Another driver, maybe someone to help clear the tree, maybe even a cop. But something felt off. The lights were swaying, like the car wasn't staying straight, like the driver was drowsy or drunk. They got closer. I squinted at the shape of the vehicle. A sedan. White. Cracked front bumper. And the license plate, I couldn't read it, but it looked familiar. Too familiar? I fumbled for my phone to call someone, anyone, but my battery was dead. I cursed, looked back up. The white sedan had stopped 20 feet behind me and just sat there. No one got out, no horn, no flash of headlights, just watching. I didn't know what to do. I considered getting out and approaching, maybe it was someone in trouble, but the second I reached for the door handle, the car's headlights turned off. Total blackness behind me. Then my van's interior light turned on. I hadn't touched it. I froze, and in the reflection of the rearview mirror, I saw something behind me. Not in the car, in the van. I didn't breathe. I couldn't. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought my knuckles might split. I was too afraid to look, too afraid that if I turned around, whatever was behind me would no longer be a shadow in the mirror but inches from my face. The overhead light buzzed faintly. The van was silent, except for the faint crackle from the radio. I reached slowly, painfully slowly toward the ignition. But before I could touch it, the passenger door lock clicked. I flinched. I looked down, all the locks were still down. But I'd heard it. I'd felt the shift in the air. I was shaking so hard I could barely move, but I did what every part of me screamed not to. I turned, and the van was empty. The back was pitch black. No one there. But the window was fogged, like someone had been breathing against it. And on the glass, written in the condensation, were 4 letters. SWITCH. I started the van, threw it into gear, drove. I didn't care where. I didn't even follow the route back. I just drove. I got home 2 hours later, parked under a street lamp, and sat in silence until the sun rose. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? The tree, the figure, the dream, the whisper, the reflection. It all felt like a pattern, like a warning that didn't end once I survived the road. And that's the worst part. The dream hasn't stopped. Only now it's different. Now I'm the one standing in the road. And in the dream, someone else is driving. They never see me. They never switch. And I always wake up just before impact. The dream started with the smell of bleach. Strong, chemical, suffocating. I was standing in a long hotel hallway, the kind with brown carpet and fluorescent lighting that hums too loud. Room doors stretched endlessly in both directions, all identical. But one was different. Room 209. Its door was wide open. Inside, only darkness. The hallway was silent, but I could hear something. Faint, muffled. Like breathing, coming from inside that room. My feet moved toward it without my permission, slow, hesitant. As I reached the threshold, I saw something on the ground, a hand, just the fingers, pale, curled, unmoving, sticking out past the edge of the doorway. The moment I noticed it, the door slammed shut and I woke up gasping, heart punching my chest from the inside. That was 3 nights ago. Now, standing in the actual hallway of the redacted inn in Oregon, holding a room service tray, I realized the layout was identical. Same carpeting, same buzzing lights, same numbers. And down the hall, room 209. The door was closed. Of course it was. But something inside me froze. Because as I passed, I smelled bleach. That same sharp, overbearing stench. The tray in my hands wobbled. I stopped. This wasn't a dream. I hadn't even remembered it that morning, not until now. Not until my body recognized the space before my mind caught up. Then came the sound. Faint, low, like someone exhaling over and over. And suddenly, I knew. That room, someone was inside. Someone who wasn't supposed to be. I stared at the closed door of room 209 for a full minute. Something inside told me to keep walking. Just do my job, just deliver the damn tray to room 212 like I was supposed to. But my feet wouldn't move. It was like every nerve in my body had gone silent, waiting. The breathing continued. Not wheezing, not panicked. Just slow, rhythmic inhales and exhales, like someone sleeping deeply. Except it came from just behind the door. There was no "do not disturb" sign. No sound of a TV. Just bleach and breath. I took a step closer. I pressed my ear to the door. The wood was cold. The breathing got louder, clearer, definitely human, but with a strange wetness to it. Like something not entirely right was moving inside the lungs that made the sound. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder, nothing. Then, from inside, a soft shuffling, like footsteps dragging across carpet. I backed up fast. Something brushed the other side of the door, a sound like a fingertip tracing the edge of the peephole. I was done. I spun around, tray in hand, and marched to room 212, knocking way too loud, hoping someone would answer fast. An old man finally opened the door and blinked at me. "You all right, son?" I realized my hand was shaking, silverware rattling on the tray. "Yeah," I lied. "Sorry, just long day." He gave me a look, but took the food. I turned and headed straight for the front desk. I asked the manager about room 209. He looked up from his computer and frowned. "There is no one checked into that room right now." I felt my stomach twist. "I heard someone inside," I said. He leaned in a little, voice low. "You sure you're not messing with me?" "No, there was someone breathing, and it smelled like bleach. Bad." His face changed. Just for a second, like he recognized something he wasn't supposed to talk about. Then he sighed. "We've had complaints. Weird noises. Housekeeping said they'd clean it later today, but no one should have been in there. I asked him to come check it with me." He hesitated, then agreed. We walked back together. The hallway felt longer this time, every light buzzing louder than before. Room 209's door was still shut, still silent. The manager inserted the master keycard and opened it. Darkness. He reached in and flicked the switch. The lights stuttered. Then came on. The room was spotless. Too spotless. No suitcases. No jacket over a chair. Not even a used towel. But there, sitting perfectly folded on the end of the bed, was a woman's dress. Long, white, damp at the hem. And on the nightstand, a pair of wire-framed glasses crusted with something red near the hinges. No one else inside, but I swear, as we stood in that doorway, I heard it again. That slow, wet exhale. The manager didn't stay long. He shrugged off the dress, muttered something about guests forgetting laundry, and left me standing there, alone, with the tray still in my hand and a feeling I couldn't shake. I should have walked away. I should have never stepped inside, but I did. One foot over the threshold, then the other. The air in room 209 felt heavier than outside. Stale. Like something had been sealed in for a long time. I placed the tray down on the desk and scanned the room again. Everything was too clean. The bed wasn't just made, it looked vacuum sealed. No dust on the lamp, no fingerprints on the mirror. But the smell of bleach was thick, stronger than before, clinging to the back of my throat. And then I heard the softest creak. I turned toward the bathroom. The door was cracked open an inch. Inside, darkness. I didn't move at first. I told myself to leave, that whatever was behind that door was none of my business. But then I saw something. A drip, red, sliding down the edge of the doorframe. Slow, sticky. And then I heard whispering. No words. Just the tone of it, quiet, feminine, repetitive, like someone praying under their breath. It came from inside the bathroom. I stepped closer. My heartbeat was thunder now. My hand moved to the door. The moment I touched it, the light in the room went out. Darkness swallowed me whole. I stood frozen, unable to move. Behind me, I heard the door to the hallway slam shut. The whispering stopped, and in its place came something worse. The sound of someone breathing directly in front of me. I stepped back. My heel caught the edge of the carpet, and I fell, hitting the floor hard. I scrambled backward until my hand touched something cold. The tray, still on the desk. I used it to push myself up, and then something grabbed my arm. Not tightly, but enough. I screamed, fought, swung the tray wildly in the dark, and felt it strike nothing. Suddenly, the lights flicked back on. I was standing alone, no one near me. But the bathroom door was now wide open. Inside, the mirror was shattered. Glass shards across the floor. The sink was full of water, pink from blood. And on the wall, written in red, smeared with fingers, "You were supposed to knock." I ran. Down the hallway, past the blinking lights, past the manager's office, past everything. I didn't stop until I hit the back exit of the hotel and stumbled into the alley, gasping in the cold morning air. I never went back. I quit that job that same day by text. No explanation. But the room didn't leave me. Not in my thoughts, not in my dreams. Especially not in my dreams. Because now, every few nights, I find myself back in that hallway. But it's never quite the same. Sometimes the numbers on the doors are scrambled. Sometimes there's no end to the corridor, it just keeps going and going, the lights flickering off behind me as I walk. And always, always, room 209 is waiting. The door slightly open, the whispering inside, and the smell of bleach stronger than ever. The worst part? Each time I dream it, the voice is clearer. It no longer whispers nonsense, it says my name. And in the last dream I had 3 nights ago, the door didn't wait for me. It opened on its own, and I saw a shape step out, wearing that long white dress, dragging its fingers along the wall as it walked. I didn't run. Couldn't. It stopped inches from my face and whispered, "You didn't knock. So now I will." And I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks on my bedroom wall. Not the door, the wall.